Hello and welcome to Spencer's Library. I'm Claudia and today I want to talk about things you can give to your bookish friend that aren't books. Christmas time is coming up and everyone's shopping for presents, and as much as I love books, I don't really want to get any for Christmas because look at the TBR behind me. I have to get through all of these next year. And I'm sure many readers are in the same position. So I thought of some things that you can give your bookish friends that are not books. But before I get into the list, I would like to recommend to you Eric Carl Anderson's video on a similar topic. I will link that in the description box down below. Though funnily enough, even though he started his video talking about things to give bookish friends that aren't books, he does end up talking about quite a lot of books and some really gorgeous ones too, so I recommend you watch his video as well. Now I've come up with 9 ideas for things to give bookish friends for Christmas, and I've split them into 2 categories. One is material things and one is non-material things. And I want to start with the material things, and those I have sorted from cheap to expensive, so you can decide based on your budget. I've also included links in the description box whenever appropriate, though most of these are really just ideas and not specific products that I want to recommend. So mostly it'll be an idea, and then in the description box I'll link a few options for that. Let's get started with the cheapest material present that I would love to get for Christmas, and that is a bookmark or even a collection of bookmarks. Now the best bookmarks are homemade, are DIY'd, are crafted, and there's so many different ways of making a bookmark. I've really enjoyed making some bookmarks out of leaves from my houseplants. Here are some from the latest batch that I've made. And I just picked leaves from my plants. This is from my little palm tree. These are from various ferns. And this one is actually from the plant you can see just in the background over there. That's a calathea leaf. So I just picked those leaves, pressed them, and then turned them into bookmarks. I have actually made a separate video about this with a video tutorial. So if you want to know exactly how to make these leaf bookmarks, then click the link in the description box to that video. But this is just one way of making a bookmark, and there are so many other ways you can crochet them. There's lots of paper craft ideas. Really, almost any material, if it's flat enough, can be turned into a bookmark. I'll link a roundup in the description box of different ideas for making your own bookmarks, and I'm sure there will be something that you will enjoy making, and I'm sure your reader friend will love getting something homemade, a lovely homemade bookmarks. And bookmarks are something that all readers appreciate because, well, to be honest, we do lose them occasionally. My second idea is a nice bookish mug and a hot drink of choice, because it is a truth universally acknowledged that readers love their tea. So let's start with the mug. Obviously, I'm going to take the opportunity to plug my own merchandise here. This, for example, is a mug inspired by my favorite novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, except with cats instead of humans. And I've got a whole series of mugs with classic literature, but with the characters replaced by cats. I've got Frankenstein, Dracula, Pride and Prejudice, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Sherlock Holmes, and Oliver Twist, and you can get these designs at shop.spinsterslibrary.com. Plug over. As well as that, if you don't fancy cats and classic literature, you can also, for example, have a look at the official penguin mugs from the publishers, which take the classic orange stripy penguin design, and you can buy those on mugs. So if you know what your bookish friend's favorite novel is, then you might be able to get that design on a mug, and I can guarantee you that will make them very, very happy. Now, as for the hot drink, it's easy enough if they like tea. because you can get a really nice tin of loose leaf tea from the supermarket. If you're lucky enough, for example, in the UK, you can find some fantastic teas at the supermarket. Or if you have a little bit more money to spend, you can get something from an online shop such as, for example, the Literary Tea Company, link down below. They sell quite expensive but incredibly cute book-inspired tea blends. So you might be able to find a tea blend that's inspired by their favorite novel or their favorite author. You can also DIY your own tea blend. That's something that I once did a few years ago for presents and also just for myself. But that does require some extra ingredients and just some extra effort, and you have to also like tea because you have to be experimenting with it. But my favorite blend that I made up back then was a Ceylon black tea with some whole rosebuds, and that was just so delicious. But if your bookish friend is more of a coffee person, then you can also get them a nice, like, really posh bag of coffee, something that they wouldn't necessarily get for themselves. But you have to make sure that you figure out how they prepare their coffee first. Do they drink filter coffee? Do they make espresso? What machine do they use? Or do they drink instant? And then for all of these, you can find some really nice options. And, you know, just get the mug, stick a bag of coffee in, and they'll love that as well. But my own personal favourite for a hot drink gift is a hot chocolate set, which just consists of a really nice quality bar of dark or plain chocolate and some mini marshmallows. And again, you can just arrange them inside the mug and it will be an adorable bookish present. The third suggestion I have for what to give your bookish friend that isn't a book is a book stand. And this is the one I have. Anyone who's ever been to primary school in Germany will recognize this. This is so incredibly useful, you have no idea. It's great for reading while you're eating, which is something I do a lot because eating is boring, or reading while you're sitting at a table. You know, if you don't want to be holding your book, you can just position it on this book, what is it called? Book stand, and you can enjoy your book while doing something else with your hands. Very, very, very useful. Now, this is not particularly attractive looking. This is a cheap monstrosity from plastic and metal. But I found quite a classy, really nice looking one that's made from wood. And I'll link that one down below. It's not too expensive. It is collapsible, so just like this one, you can fold that one flat, and it is adjustable, so you can adjust the angle to whichever way you like. Don't be afraid, because the one that I've linked down below is actually advertised as being for recipe books and cookbooks, the idea being that you can prop it up in the kitchen while you're cooking something. But don't let that fool you. It is an all-round useful gift, and maybe something that your reader friend won't expect from you, because some people don't know that these exist if you're not lucky enough to have been in primary school in Germany. But they will appreciate it, they will use it, I can promise you that. The fourth idea I have is a tote bag, and okay, let's get this out of the way. shop.princesslibrary.com has got some literary cat tote bags, but there are other options as well. This is the one I have. And this was actually a Christmas present from my mother-in-law from, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago. She clearly knows me incredibly well. Yeah, look at that design. I never go out without it when I'm book shopping. It's got enough space for about, I'd say, about 15 quid's worth of charity shop books, which is a whole lot. And even if your bookish friend doesn't like cats as much as I do, you will find a bookish tote bag to suit them. I got one for my friend and guestminster Robin, which was just like a nice picture of books on a shelf, and it had some nice embroidery on it and a little bit of glitter. Very, very cute. There's loads of these on Etsy and on other places online, so just have a look around. And again, I can promise you your bookish friend will appreciate a big old tote bag. My fifth suggestion, and now we're getting into the slightly more expensive category, and that is a pair of bookends. Now, if you are any skilled at DIY or woodworking, then you could make your own, and I'm sure your friend would appreciate that so much, but that does require some skill, and definitely more skill than I have. So I had a look at bookends online, because I pretty much just use these 2 plant pots as my bookends for my TBR, which are fine. They work great. If your bookish friend is into plants, then you could get that. But actually I found a really nice compromise online. There is one pair of bookends that I found that is essentially a plant pot split in 2, right? So you have left half over here, right half over there, and the books in between. And the pots function as pots as well, so you can add some soil and plant a little plant in there. Adorable. But there are so many different bookend designs. You can get really old-fashioned antique looking ones, you can get some sleek modern ones, you can get them made of metal, wood, marble. I even found some quite nice looking ones made from crystals. So there's a huge variety of bookends that you can get in all sorts of different places, and actually there's a huge variety of budgets as well. If you get some handmade wooden ones, then that'll cost you a whole lot more than if you get some mass-produced metal ones. But there is something for pretty much every taste and every budget in terms of bookends. And again, that is something that I'm pretty sure your bookish friends will appreciate and use. The 6th suggestion, and this is maybe a little bit less obvious, is light. Obviously we all need light for reading, and when I read when it's quite dark, I like to use a lamp, and this is the one I've got. This is just a very utilitarian looking, I'm sure you've seen this one around. This is from IKEA. I bought this one over 5 years ago, so I'm not even sure if they still make it. What's great about this is that it is very adjustable in terms of height, in terms of angle. You can, yeah, like you can pretty much, I mean, look at that. Pixel watt. You can pretty much aim that at any spot in your book and it will do a great job. But there are lots of other lamps as well. If your friend is a little bit more aesthetically inclined, then you can get some really nice looking ones as well. You can get desk lamps, you can get ceiling lamps, you can get reading lamps, you can get bedside table lamps. One slightly weird thing I found while looking into lamps is a neck lamp. So that's like this kind of thing that goes around your neck, and it's got 2 lights attached here, and you can point them at the book you're reading. So if you're there reading a book, then you can angle your little neck lamps to point at the book, and according to the Amazon reviews, this is great for reading in bed. So I'll link that in the description box as well. I can't vouch for it, I don't own it, but I can't say I'm not intrigued. Then we get to my most expensive suggestion for a material present, and that is an e-reader. This is mine, and I love it. It's a Kindle, and it's a Kindle Paperwhite is what this one's called. And this is a 1st generation Paperwhite. I've had this for over 6 years. And it's the 2nd Kindle I've owned. I only had to replace the 1st Kindle I ever owned because my husband Bill sat on it and broke it. But this one has been going strong since 2013, and I've been using it quite a lot in the past 6 years, and I've not seen it lose any power or performance. And I just don't see myself replacing this one unless this one eventually breaks as well. But again, at this point, it hasn't shown any signs of wear and tear in terms of charging time, in terms of power or anything. What I like about the Paperwhite is that it's got this light, it's not backlit, but it's got LED lights that kind of shine onto the surface of the e-ink screen so that you can read in all sorts of different lighting conditions. You can read when it's really dark, and you can read when it's very bright, but it never looks, when you're reading it, if you have it adjusted to the right brightness, it never looks like you're looking at a screen. Like, for example, if you're reading from a tablet. Again, this one is absolutely ancient, and I'm sure you can get second-hand Kindles on eBay, etc. And I wouldn't shy away from getting a second-hand Kindle because, like I said, unlike my phone, which I've recently had to replace, this really does last forever. But if you want to get a new one, I'll link the latest generation Kindle in the description box as well. I think even if the person you're gifting this to hasn't expressed a wish to read on ebooks, I think a lot of people don't realize what reading ebooks actually means, because they assume that it's like reading from a phone or reading from a tablet, but actually it's a much more pleasant experience, especially if you're reading at night. Because you don't need a separate light, you don't need the weird neck light with this, you can just open this up and read in bed and not disturb anyone. So yes, I'm very much a fan of the e-reader and of the Kindle in particular. That's just the one that I know myself. However, it isn't a cheap present, so this is really obviously very budget dependent. Let's get to the non-material things. I've got 2 on this list. If you can think of any more bookish gift ideas that aren't material, then leave them in the description box, because I'd be interested to hear your ideas as well. The first idea that I thought of, the one that's a little bit on the lower end of the budget, would be tickets to the theatre or the cinema for the latest book adaptation. Now, I had a look to see at what's going to be in cinemas next year, and there are quite a few book adaptations that are going to be released next year, including Dolittle, which was actually, parts of it were actually filmed just outside of where I live. Artemis Fowl, there's a new Emma adaptation, Roald Dahl's The Witches, Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile, there's a new Dune adaptation. So there's a few things that are going to be in the cinemas, or if you're American, in the movie theatres, that might be interesting to your bookish friend if you know their reading taste. You can also check the local theatres to see if there's anything on your local stage, either a play, if your bookish friend is into plays, or an adaptation of a novel, because quite a few novels these days get adapted into theatre productions, ballets, operas, all sorts of different types of performance. So that's, you know, a unique present that you might have available or not, depending on where you live. And finally, the 9th non-material present would be an ebook or audiobook subscription. So I'm subscribed to Audible. It costs me about $5 a month, and I get 1 audiobook for that money. And I think that's a great deal. I'm not planning to come off that subscription. And if your bookish friend enjoys audiobooks, so even if they don't but you think they might, then an Audible subscription, like a 1-year gift subscription, is a great idea for them to try it out. I'll link that in the description box as well. And there's also something called Kindle Unlimited, which looks like a monthly subscription to Kindle where you can get unlimited books. Now, this is not something I'm personally subscribed to, so I can't vouch for it, I can't recommend it as a good deal or whatever, but it's also something that is available to you, and again I'll link that in the description box as well. I mean, it makes sense to get a Kindle Unlimited subscription if your bookish friend already owns a Kindle, because if you're buying a Kindle and the subscription, I mean, you know what, more power to you if you have the budget, but that can get quite expensive. So those were my 9 ideas for bookish presents that aren't books. I would like to know your ideas in the comments as well, especially if you have any specific ideas. For example, if you say, oh yes, I saw this really adorable tote bag. However, and I always say this when I'm asking for recommendations, please don't put any links in the comments, because Google will flag those up as spam, and likely I won't even get to see your comment if you add a link into it. So if you can just describe the item or tell us what to search for, on which website to search for it, then it might be easier for other people to actually go and find that, because it won't get flagged as spam by YouTube. I'm looking forward to seeing what I get for Christmas. I have a suspicion, and that is I'm probably going to get the latest illustrated Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fourth one, because my in-laws family have so far given me the first, second and third of the series, and the fourth one has just come out, and I'm very, very happy to expand my collection of that. I love these illustrated editions. Yeah, let me know what you are going to give someone for Christmas, especially bookish presents that aren't books, and let me know what you're hoping to get as well. Thank you for watching. Bye!